Chess Diagnostic.
Hello everyone. This is a really interesting game that was played between two computer programs. Rybka was white and Houdini is black. Now these are older versions because this game is from 2011, but this game was fascinating to me because it looks like when I first looked at it, the moves look so ridiculous, but when I went deeper and analyzed it, everything is so logical from the perspective of activity. I just had to make a video about it. So I also just want to make an announcement that I've had an idea for quite a while to make a video of subscribers' games, of amateur games, and just analyze it to find the mistakes. So I encourage you, if you have a game that you'd like analyzed, please leave it in the comments or send me a message of that game and I'll make a video of it, or I'll choose one or two. But whoever submits a game, I'll probably make a video of it. So, alright, so let's start here. Black eventually won because it was Houdini that won, but we'll look at it from the beginning here. So e4, c5, we get a Sicilian defense, and we get the Alapin variation where black brings the knight to f6, and then they push the pawn to e5. So far, everything's pretty normal here. A normal opening. But this is where it starts to get weird. So, of course, black pushes c5 to c4, reducing the activity of the bishop. He brings his queen to c7, hitting this e5 pawn. The queen protects it. Oh, queen protects it there. So then he plays g5. Now, this move might look kind of ridiculous because white can take, but actually the subtle understanding is that if the knight just takes, then we win an important central pawn, and black has increased his activity as well. And the rook can take this file. Now, of course, white can take this pawn, but Houdini accurately assesses that if he does take this pawn, black's development of his queenside pieces, as well as this dark square bishop, will be more than sufficient compensation for that material loss. So actually what happens is, instead of taking that pawn, white first plays e6 to try to weaken black's pawn structure, and then he takes, but black just trades queens, and then he resumes his development and starts trying to gain active pieces in the center. So white, after trading that pawn, takes h7. Now notice that the piece activity for white is going to be reduced quite a lot because these three pieces are undeveloped, this rook is doing nothing, and his king is going to be sitting in the center, partially blocking his pieces. So black simply starts developing. So this move here, when he moves the knight forward, might seem a little random. He could have just castled, but of course the pawn would chase the knight away, and then black would take here, forking the rooks. But this might seem illogical to play because he gives away a pawn. But the key point of it, after the bishop takes, the king takes, is knight to a4. So why would Houdini play knight to a4? What do you think? It might look like he's just attacking the b2 pawn, but what he's actually doing is he's completely tying up the queen side, because this bishop can't move because the b2 pawn's weak, as well as the king moving over here, staying out of the center, and now black has free reign to simply bring his rooks into the game, and white is going to have a much harder time of doing that. So at this point, he's given up two pawns for greater activity of his pieces. Alright, so black simply starts pushing his pawns on the queen side to undermine these pawns. He chases the knight back, and now he pushes b5, preparing to play b4. So the knight plays to c2 to try to prevent b4, but black just plays it anyway. You can see that he's trying to undermine this b2 pawn. So black, even though he is down 2 pawns at this point, further sacrifices even more material. Now, instead of simply trading pieces and allowing white to get an easier development, black is absolutely ruthless, moves his king, and now his rooks are ready to come into the game. So even though he just sacrificed another pawn, this pawn trade allows this rook to be active, and notice that white is sitting, his king is sitting in the center, but 3 of his pieces are completely inactive. So Rybka is trying to rectify this situation by getting his king out of the way and developing his pieces, but there's really no option at this point. After rook to d8, he's threatening to bring all of his pieces into white's camp. All right, so it looks like the computer was suggesting to get this rook into the game, but even then it's too late. He tries to give his king a flight square, but black is just preparing to penetrate deep into white's territory, and there's really nothing that black can do. And now, after this knight move, which is a big mistake, black pins it with the d8 rook, as well as bringing the bishop to bear down on it. White's trying to trade off his inactive pieces for black's active ones, but black uses all of his pieces now with knight to c5 to bear down on this pinned piece. So after the rook trade, white is left with all inactive pieces, and black is not only going to win his material back, but he's going to win all of his pawns back eventually. So a mistake would be to take this pawn, even though the knight's pinned, because white can simply move out of the way, and then after a knight trade, white will actually win back his piece. For example, if we take here, then black will simply take the bishop, and actually black would be lost at this point. So after the bishop's attacked with f4, the bishop simply moves back, bishop to f6, and now white is forced to lose a piece. So at this point, because of black's greater activity, he's won his piece back, and now he's going to go about winning back all of his pawns. White's trying to push his passed pawn here, but black has reduced white's activity completely, and now he's going to be winning pawns here. The bishop plans to come back to a8 to stop this pawn, as well as win this pawn here. So after a check, the bishop comes back, and with this bishop pair, he completely owns the whole board. So black is simply using his pieces to control all the important squares, win back his pawns, and eventually he'll be ushering his own pawns in. So with his extra piece, he's able to win back all of his pawns, and now simply he's up an extra piece. And even though these pawns are on opposite sides of the board, the power of the bishop pair is that he can control all the important squares on both sides of the board. So after the bishop comes back, black starts pushing his passed pawns. And after this move, actually, white resigned because there's no way to stop black winning all the pawns back as well as pushing his own passed pawns. But if we play out the line, we actually get quite an incredible ending to this game. So black actually trades, and he goes about checking white, trying to queen with a check to prevent this pawn from queening. And we actually end up with a 2-bishop ending that's easily won. Alright, thank you for watching this very interesting game. Leave a comment of your own game if you want it analyzed, and I'll see you in the future.